State Board of Education. I work at USBE in our assessment department. I am a special education specialist, so I work around accessibility and accommodations for students in our assessment department, as well as our special education department. Scott Ross Kelly at USBE is our ACT program manager, but he is currently on some personal leave, so he won't be joining us this afternoon. But we also have our ACT program manager and coordinator here with us to answer some questions after we go through our recorded training. We will have a moment for question and answers at the end.
All right, are we ready?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, see if I can do this the same way. Okay, can everybody see that okay?
Looks good.
Okay. All right, here we go.
Welcome to this administration training session for ACT test administration using ACT Now. We want to say thank you for your willingness to support students by providing this opportunity. Today we'll cover how do I successfully manage the administration of the ACT? What's new? Important dates. ACT systems review. Pre-test activities. Preparation for online testing. Day of the test. After the test. There will be a second training on January 16th to cover the remaining topics. You should register for that training using the link found in your schedule of events. First, let's review what the ACT assessment is. The ACT contains 4 multiple choice tests: English, mathematics, reading, and science. These tests are designed to measure skills that are most important for success in post-secondary education and that are acquired in secondary education. The score range for each of the 4 multiple choice tests is 1 to 36. The composite score is the average of 4 test scores rounded to the nearest whole number. The ACT test is designed to provide schools and districts with the data necessary to position students for success after high school. Test scores reflect what students have learned throughout high school and provide colleges and universities with excellent information for recruiting, advising, placement, and retention. Many times, students who are not considering higher education rethink their plans when they see their ACT test results. This is especially true for underrepresented students. To support college and career planning, the ACT also offers a career exploration component to help students identify career options. I'd like to quickly go through the important dates you'll need to remember. Some of the key milestone dates for this administration include the following: Request accommodations, September 16th, 2024 through January 24th, 2025. Accept invitation and load users, November 4th, 2024 through January 31st, 2025. Verify student information, November 4th, 2024 through January 31st, 2025. Technical site readiness, December 2nd, 2024 through February 5th, 2025. Request qualified exceptions to the deadline, January 27th through March 7th, 2025. Test Event 1. March 11th through March 14th, 2025, Test Event 2. Add and assign additional students, February 10th through February 28th, 2025, Test Event 1. February 24th through March 14th, 2025, Test Event 2. March 10th through March 28th, 2025, Test Event 3. Receive test materials 2 to 3 weeks before test date. All important dates are included in your schedule of events on the ACT hosted testing website. This year, you will be using ACT Now as the administration platform. You may be familiar with Pearson Access Next, which was used in prior years, so let's look to compare the two systems. There are many features you are familiar with that will not change. To start, test itself has not changed. The overall student experience stays the same, including what the student experiences on test day, as well as using My ACT to complete non-test portions, request college choices, and accessing their scores. The process for requesting accommodations in the test accessibility and accommodations and accessing score reports and data files in online review will also remain the same. Testing staff who previously used Pearson Access Next will now use ACT Now and Test Center Manager or TCM. User roles have been reconfigured. We will discuss the new roles a little later in the session. You have more flexibility to add and edit user accounts throughout the administration. You will no longer need to manually order additional materials for students loaded after the student data upload deadline. If paper testing students are loaded and assigned to a test event by the Add and Assign Additional Students window, paper testing materials will automatically be sent to your schools. Resources for test administration are now built into ACT Now and TCM. We will no longer ship paper manuals and administration forms, as they are all available through one central location. Test day activities are managed through test rooms in TCM for both online and paper administrations. Schools will no longer return scratch paper, translated test directions, or used and unused student authorization tickets. Please arrange for secure destruction of these documents. There are also new vocabulary terms you will need to be familiar with. ACT Now is the website or application used by districts and schools to manage organizations, users, and students for the life cycle of your program's ACT testing contract. ACT Test Center Manager, TCM, is the app used by test center staff to manage site details, create test rooms, administer tests, including verbal instructions, review ACT policies, and report all required test event details. Users launch TCM via ACT Now accounts. Contract. The agreement between ACT and a district or state for the in-school administration of one or more ACT products over a period of 1 or more years. Administration. Each phase within a contract that includes special test events agreed to within your contract. Test event. All testing activities related to a testing window. For example, accommodations testing or online testing, or related to a single date. For example, paper, standard time, based off of your administration. There are also some new users and roles to know. Users are the staff required to use ACT Now and/or TCM to complete ACT tasks. Roles reflect user responsibilities and determine level of access in the application. It is important to know that all staff that have responsibilities on test day should be assigned the appropriate user role within ACT Now. The contract coordinator is the person with the program oversight at the highest organizational level in the contract. The contract coordinator is responsible for setting up the contract within ACT Now and is the primary contact with ACT for the administration. District test coordinators have district-level oversight. In ACT Now, this role can access district information as well as information for their schools. Test coordinator has school-level oversight. This role can manage students and test event staff in ACT Now, plus all test event details in TCM. For ACT state and district testing, multiple individuals within your organization can be assigned as a test coordinator if appropriate. Test accommodations coordinator has the ability to monitor students to ensure that all accommodations pins are applied, as well as manage test rooms within TCM. This role is separate from the test accessibility coordinator role within the test accessibility and accommodation system. If you should have access to request accommodations, you will need separate access to the TAA system. Test event staff are room supervisors, room proctors, and roving proctors. This role will primarily use TCM for policy review and test day administration. Outside of using ACT Now, a few changes have been made for the 2024-2025 academic year. Both secure and non-secure materials will be shipped together if you select Test Event 2 as your initial test date. The materials will arrive 2 to 3 weeks prior to testing. You may now select Test Event 3 as your initial test date. You will now have 40 characters for both first and last names, eliminating the need to truncate names. For paper testing, translated test directions for use with approved accommodations will be available on your ACT-hosted website. They will not be printed and shipped with your test materials. Online testing has historically used this version available on the website. We will no longer print barcode labels for online testing students. If a student's test mode is switched to paper testing at a later time, a barcode label will be shipped to you with the test booklet. The ability to run a mock test is now built into Test Center Manager. More information will be provided later in this presentation. Also, for online testing, you will no longer need to return any materials from the administration. Scratch paper can either be securely destroyed or securely stored for 1 year after testing. There is more than one system used to prepare and administer the ACT test. Let's take a moment to review these. ACT Now is the application used by districts and schools to manage organizations, users, and students for the life cycle of your program's ACT testing contract. TCM is an interactive digital application that ACT testing staff will use to manage Test Center Manager information and administer the ACT. The TCM application streamlines test day activities, simplifies staff training, and provides data to ACT in real time. Using TCM, room supervisors will complete verbal instructions, room seating charts, testing time, and logging irregularities on test day. Test coordinators will build virtual rooms, log materials, and oversee test center activities during a test event. You will access TCM through ACT Now. ACT policies and resources are available in TCM. This is information previously included in the administration manuals. Success.act.org is a website which is used to access online reporting and the Test Accessibility and Accommodation System, or TAA. This allows for one interface, username and password to access both online reports and TAA. The Test Accessibility and Accommodation System, or TAA, is the site used to submit requests for ACT-authorized accommodations and supports to examinees. The Online Reports portal is a dynamic, interactive reporting tool. It allows users to create custom reports which works best for their institution, to interpret and use the data to best serve their students. Most resources needed for administration will be found within ACT Now and TCM. Your ACT-hosted testing website has additional resources to guide you through a successful testing journey. One of the first steps for you in creating an ACT Now account, if you had an account associated with testing last year in ACT Now, you will use the same account and therefore do not need to create a new one. If you do not have an ACT Now account yet, please create one. There are detailed instructions on how to do this found on your ACT-hosted state testing website under Step 1, Pre-Administration. If you had an account last year, use the same account. If not, create one. Instructions available on the website on how to do this. Before test day, you will need to do some preparation. Before talking about the pre-administration activities, let's get familiar with the ACT Now homepage. Your ACT Now homepage will appear whenever you first log into a browsing session. At the top, you will see the administration and can use the drop-down to change the administration you are preparing for. The homepage is organized by chronological order for your administration to help guide you through preparing to test. The administration tile is visible to contract coordinators, district test coordinators, and test coordinators. This tile is used by the contract coordinators to invite organizations to the administration and used by district test coordinators and test coordinators to accept or decline participation and select test dates. Student information is loaded and managed through the Students tile. Here you will manage the student's test event assignment, test option, and other important student data. The Test Events tile will give you an overview of your organization's setup for the administration. This is also where you will go to access TCM. In the upper right, you will find notifications to remind you of any upcoming activities. Schedule of events, links to your program's website, and additional resources are found on the left side of the page. When clicking within a tile from the home page, you will find the Need Help option. This includes page tours, tutorials, and additional resources to help guide you through the setup process. Next, we will discuss pre-administration activities. Your schedule of events will include dates and deadlines for all these pre-administration activities. Your State Department of Education will add organizations, invite them to participate, and add users to the administration. Test coordinators at the district or school level should accept participation to the administration. They'll select test events at material receipt weeks, as well as providing information about the primary and shipping contact for each school. Test coordinators will assign students to a test event. The Test Accessibility and Accommodations Coordinator should learn about accessibility and supports available for the ACT and request authorized accommodations and English learner supports. Students will need to complete non-test activities in their MyACT accounts. Again, please refer to your schedule of events for the deadlines associated to each of these tasks. Your state will invite all participating schools to the administration. That allows test coordinators at the school or district level to confirm participation. To confirm participation, navigate to the administration tile and select Confirm to indicate the intent to test during the administration. At this time, you will select the test event that your school will be initially testing in. Choose the week that you wish to receive your test materials and confirm the shipping address where test materials should be sent. Reminders can be sent to the test coordinators to complete this step through the Send Reminder button in the upper right-hand corner. Use the Overview tab to see the percentage of schools that have confirmed participation or are still awaiting response. While still in the administration tile, add more users to ACT Now by using the Invite Individual button to enter your user's information directly on the page, or go to the File tab to find the user's invitation file layout and template to add multiple users through one import. All staff that will be involved with administering the test must be invited to ACT Now. Room supervisors and proctors need access to the system in order to administer the test. Use the user role matrix available on your program's website to help determine the best role for the additional users. Your state will upload student information. Once students are loaded, test coordinators will use the Students tile to verify student information, assign or review student test events, and edit students' information if needed. After students are loaded to the administration and you've verified or assigned their test event assignments, you should review your student status. Verify that the information is correct for each student. To do this, select the blue caret next to the student name and select Edit Student Information. You may now update any information on this page. Be sure to select Save once change has been entered. If the student has approved accommodations or English learner supports from ACT, ACT will enter the TAA PIN onto the student record for you. If you are testing any students with non-college reportable accommodations, you will need to enter that information here under the Accommodations option. Please note, non-college reportable accommodations are rare and should not be selected if the student has approved accommodations. An important step in preparing for testing is supporting students to complete their student non-test information. ACT will print and ship individualized copies of the student non-test information instructions for each student assigned to a test event in ACT Now by the deadlines listed in your schedule of events. If you add students after the deadline, you can generate and print these instructions from the Reports tab. Also on the Reports tab, you will generate the Student Claim Code report. Use this to see which students have completed their non-test information. Use the Overview tab to confirm students' information looks correct from a high level. Here, you will find multiple different charts, including a breakdown of the number of students assigned to each test event, test format, and student grade. Through the Test Events tile, click on your school to see a high-level summary of each test event within the administration. This is also where you will go to launch into TCM. On the Reports tab, you will find the Order Tracking Report, which contains the FedEx tracking numbers for your test materials. Be sure to generate the report before opening to make sure that any new shipments are accounted for. Within ACT Now, all of the tasks that have been discussed so far have two ways to complete: on screen or through a file import. To complete on screen, select the plus sign in blue near the top of the page. A pop-up screen will appear allowing you to enter the information directly on the page. You may also complete all tasks within ACT Now through a file import. To use the import, go to the File tab within the appropriate tile. Download the template to get a blank file with the appropriate header row for the task you are trying to complete. Also refer to the ACT Now guidelines for the file layout instructions, such as field descriptions or character requirements. Once the file is complete, save as a CSV and select Upload File to start importing the information. As your import is processing, select Refresh until complete. If your file contains any error messages, you can use the Download Error Message feature to see what the exact problem was. Correct the errors in your original file and re-import until all errors have been resolved. Now let's discuss technical readiness. The test coordinator and technical coordinator need to complete these steps to administer the test online. Step 1. The test coordinator appoints a technical coordinator. The technical coordinator reviews technical requirements. Note: please see the TestNav system requirements for more information. When a test coordinator confirms their organization's participation in an administration, a technical readiness test event will be automatically created and assigned to that user in TCM. By clicking on the technical readiness test event in TCM and selecting Monitor Rooms, you will be able to access standard time and text-to-speech technical readiness rooms in TCM. Each room will have 10 sample students assigned. By selecting Manage Online Testing, the rooms with sample students will appear, along with the seal codes for each test. You will be able to see the student's username and password, or you can download authorization tickets that contain the username and passwords. The technical coordinator performs a technical readiness test to confirm the tests launch successfully. The technical coordinator validates configuration by using data from the sample students in the technical readiness test event in TCM. Log into TestNav on a device that will be used to test. Navigate through each section to validate configuration. If unable to successfully complete the test, contact ACT for assistance. Note: for ACT testing, the writing test is included in the sample used for the testing even if the contract does not include writing. The technical coordinator then configures the network and will lock down devices. Note: if at any point the technical coordinator doubts the online testing can be accomplished, the technical coordinator should advise the test coordinator to switch to a paper administration. You should freeze the configuration until online testing is finished at your organization. This includes not accepting operating system updates. Important: all devices that will be used for testing must be administrator controlled. No software of any sort should be downloaded or updated on any computer that will be used for testing after the setup above has been completed. Prepare for testing. An initial shipment of materials will automatically be sent to your school based off the number of students that are assigned to a test event by the deadline listed in your schedule of events. These materials will arrive the week chosen when accepting the invitation to the administration, either 2 or 3 weeks before your first test event. Secure and non-secure materials will all be included in the same shipment. The items in your shipment will vary based off the test mode assigned to your students. Paper manuals and test admin forms will no longer be shipped. This information will be provided within TCM. This will be discussed later in the presentation. Order information is provided in ACT Now to help make sure you know exactly when your materials will arrive and what materials to expect. Within the Test Event tile, you will find the Shipments Tracking tab. From this page, you will see all orders for your school. To see more information on the order, click the order number. Here, the General Details tab will show you where the materials are going. The Tracking tab will provide you with the tracking numbers as well as a hyperlink to the carrier's website. The Materials tab will provide you with a list of all the test materials that will be in your shipment. All examinees will complete demographic information and college reporting choices online at myact.org. Examinees may complete this prior to testing, or they will have up until 2 days after testing to finish the non-test information. The information will take approximately 30 minutes, and you may schedule either in-school sessions for all students or ask them to complete it individually on their own time. Each examinee will need their own personalized copy of the MyACT non-test instructions for students and a copy of the Taking the ACT State and District Testing Guide. Complete instructions are available on the ACT-hosted testing webpage in the pre-administration step. The minimal demographics, which are block A through G, on the answer document can be completed on test day prior to starting the test. As a reminder, these fields are required in order for students to receive score reports within the 3 to 8 week time frame, and they must complete even if the answer document includes a barcode label. Non-test information instructions can be printed from ACT Now if an additional copy is needed or if a student is added after you've received your material shipments. To access the non-test information instructions, start in the student tile within ACT Now. Go to the Reports tab and select Generate, next to the student's non-test information. When the file is ready, select Download PDF. If you have added additional students since last generating the report, you may regenerate. Please note, to keep track of which students have completed their non-test instructions, use the Student Claim Code report, also available on this page. The MyACT Resources section of your ACT-hosted testing website contains some great free resources for your students and staff to prepare for the ACT. For students, there is a link called Information for Examinees, which links to a website which should be shared with your students, as seen on screen here. However, we do not want students accessing your ACT-hosted testing website. The link is also made available to examinees in the Taking the ACT document. This link contains a MyACT Quick Start Guide and an account setup video, as well as information to access an online practice test in TestNav, which will allow examinees to become familiar with the testing platform prior to test day. We will now discuss Test Center Manager, referred to as TCM, and explain how we use this system to administer your program's ACT test. You may already be familiar with TCM if your organization is an ACT national test site. But now let's talk about how TCM is used for ACT state and district testing. You will use TCM to access ACT's policies around the rules and regulations for a successful administration of the ACT, formally provided in the printed materials. You will also use TCM to manage testing, such as creating testing rooms and submitting irregularities. Pre-test and post-test checklists are also available to help ensure all tasks have been completed. To access TCM, start by signing in to ACT Now. Here you will have 2 different paths to get into TCM. First, there is an ACT TCM link in the upper left corner of the screen. Clicking this link will take you directly into TCM. The second path you can take is through the Test Events tile. The Launch TCM button is on the right-hand side of the Test Events page. You may need to select a school first to see the option, depending on the organization's level you are associated with. You are now on the home page of the Test Center Manager TCM. We will start by going over the ACT Policy and Resources modules. The product group shown on this page will depend on the product that your TCM account is associated to. You will only see the products that are relevant to you. Although there is a warning message stating how many modules are incomplete, you may only need to read the modules that are associated to your user role within TCM. The modules have been refined to only provide information relevant to your role. The User Resources module will contain multiple different resources that can be used to help navigate TCM, including setting up TCM and managing test day activities. The Policy and Resources modules are a replacement for the paper manuals. Entire manuals or individual chapters can be printed locally if you want certain information on paper. If you are a national test coordinator in addition to the test coordinator for state and district testing, be sure to select state and district policies. Click into each one and read each section. Then select I read and understand the information. Go through each section until all policies are attested to. If there are policies that don't apply to you, for example, if you're testing online and there is a section about paper testing only, you can skip that chapter in the module. You do not need to read all of the policies in one sitting. TCM will keep track of the sections that you have read. You can pick back up at any time. You may also go back and reference a section that has already been marked as read. After reviewing policies, return back to TCM homepage to access the assignments. An assignment is created for every test event, school, and product. You may see multiple tiles here depending on your user role and associations. Review the details within the assignment to ensure you are selecting the correct option for the test event you are wanting to set up or administer. Clicking on the test event will bring you to the event dashboard. The event dashboard is where you will go to work through the steps of preparing for testing. To get started, review the test event checklists. These will guide you through everything that needs to be done for testing. There are two separate checklists, pre-test and post-test. The pre-test checklist has your to-do list prior to testing, and the post-test list is everything you need to wrap up once the administration is over. Click into this step for more details on each task. Check off the boxes as you complete a task. Select Save after checking boxes. You may see tasks that are for a test mode that you are not testing in. Those can be skipped if not applicable or mark as complete. You can go back and review completed tasks. Review both checklists regularly to make sure you are on track and to see what is coming up or still left to complete. Next, we will discuss creating rooms. Rooms need to be created for all students who will test either online or paper. This can be completed by a test coordinator, district test coordinator, or contract coordinator. Note, rooms can be created any time prior to test day. There needs to be a separate room in TCM for each physical room that the student will be testing in. There is no limit to the number of rooms that can be created. Separate rooms will also need to be created for every test event that you will be participating in. These rooms will be used by the room supervisor on test day to manage testing, including seating charts, the prompts on test day, documenting any irregularities, and the timing of the test. To get started, click the plus sign next to Rooms and Staff. Then click Manage Rooms and Staff. Select Create Room. You may also come to this page to edit any existing test session that you have previously created. Enter all room information, room name, capacity, mode, test option, timing code. All fields are required. Room maximum capacity will end up controlling how many students you can assign to the room. It is okay to have a higher capacity than students assigned to the room, but should reflect how many students could test in the room while following ACT spacing guidelines. It is very important when creating the rooms to think about the examinees that will be assigned to this room. The timing code assigned when creating the room will need to match the examinee's accommodation in order to ensure the proper time is given on test day. Each room can only contain one timing code. Once all information is entered, select Continue. You will now enter the room structure, shape of room, seating arrangement, desk type, supervisor desk location. Please select the options that resemble the room as closely as possible if an exact match is not represented. This replaces the need to draw the room layout on a printed test administration form. Select Continue. Enter the number of rows and seats per row, size of each work surface, and distance between examinees. What you enter here will control how the room supervisor creates the seating chart on test day, so please be as accurate as possible. Select Continue. You have now successfully created a test room. Repeat these steps until all needed rooms have been created. Finally, here's ACT's contact information. The ACT-hosted state testing website has all the resources you need to successfully administer the ACT test. If the resources posted on the website do not answer your questions, please call or email us. Please note, the extension numbers are different for standard time test administration questions, which is 2800, option 4, and accommodation and supports questions, which is 1788. That concludes our presentation, and we will now open the session for questions. You may use the chat feature on the screen. Chat questions will be read and answered aloud for everyone's benefit. Now, what questions do you have? Welcome to update any information on this.
Thank you for joining the Utah Pre-Test Administration webinar. The chat is open for any questions you may have at this time. Also, this is recorded. This webinar was recorded and it will be posted later on the Utah YouTube page, and the slide deck will be posted on the Utah State hosted web page. So if you're looking to review the slides of the presentation, you can review it. It will be posted tomorrow on the state hosted web page. Also, please feel free to use the chat if you have any questions. And also, if you have any questions after this webinar, you may call us or email us during the appropriate times. There is a question in the chat: when will TCM be available for the state testing in the spring? Thank you for your question. I believe TCM, give me 1 second. While we are looking into the question about TCM, there is another question in the chat. And thank you for your questions. Please continue to post your questions. One question asked, I have heard that ACT will be changing in the near future. Is that true? If so, when will that take into effect? When there will be changes, the state will share these changes, as well as ACT we will provide any information. So any changes that you have heard as of right now, we will share when things have been confirmed. Thank you. Will the school district provide the ACT Now account login? Yes. Admins will have to register themselves. Yes, test coordinators will have to register themselves. The districts will provide the confirm. Once they confirm, they will provide the registration and the confirm button for all of the coordinators in which they add.
This is Jessica with the state again, just to add on to any changes with the ACT. There have been discussions about the future of ACT, not including the science, but all of the discussions we have had at the state level have been with the mindset that we will continue to keep science as an option. There's been no final answer to that, but right now for Utah, we don't envision excluding that for our state test.
Oh, thank you for clarifying that, Jessica. I didn't know that's what the question was referring to. Okay. Right. Thank you. And as far as TCM, TCM is available for state testing in the spring. There also will be an email that will let you know what to do in TCM, but you should be able to log into TCM. At this time, you can create test rooms in TCM. I don't know your role, but if you are seeking to get access to your spring tests, I would reach out to your state representative. We have a few that's on the line. Scott, he's not here at this time, but there's also others on. So I will request that you reach out to your state representative in regards to your access. If you are a test coordinator, I would encourage you to reach out to your district test coordinator. And if you are a district test coordinator, I will encourage you to reach out to your state representative for your access for spring testing. And there was another question. Thank you for your questions. Does each school have to register each student individually for the online ACT tests? The state has already done a student data upload. They have already done a student data upload in November. If there are additional students, you can add those students individually. There is documents also on the state host webpage with instructions on how to upload the students. Correct. Yes. So any new students to the state after November will have to be added. Yes. Correct. Well, after the state uploaded the state data upload. I do not remember that date off the top of my head, but it was the same week of the opening of ACT now. Thank you for your questions. These are lovely questions. Please feel free to continue to use the chat. Oh, thank you, Maureen, for sharing your email. If in the chat, it says district coordinators who don't have access to the 2025 administration can contact maureen.rushing@schools.utah.gov. Thank you for sharing your email contact in the chat. If you are a school test coordinator, please feel free to reach out to your district test coordinators for your access. There was a question in chat, do creative rooms from last year stay in the system to be used again this year? No, creative rooms do not stay from previous years. You will have to make changes again. Thank you for that question. I do encourage each and every one of you to utilize our phone numbers and our email address. If you have any questions or concerns after this webinar in regards to test administration and accommodations and support. The chat is still open. Also in the chat, the state hosted webpage is posted as well as the schedule of events. It's posted, so please feel free to. There is a question in chat. When was the deadline for accommodations for 504 and or IEPs? The deadline for accommodations is January 24th. So we have some time, but I do encourage each and every one of you to submit or request accommodations and support for eligible examinees through TAA. Do not wait to the last minute. I do encourage you all to submit or provide your support for eligible examinees through TAA. So the deadline is January 24th. And to request reconsiderations of the ACT authorized accommodations and or supports in TAA, that deadline is January 31st.
Hi, Marissa, it's Maureen. I
Yes.
just wanted to emphasize that when you put in those requests for accommodations, that you match the student information that is in ACT now. Name spelled the same, first name, last name, middle, initial, make sure the date of birth matches, make sure the gender matches. We want all that information to match so those accommodations can be applied to that student without having to do any editing. So it really helps if all that information matches between the two.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you for sharing. There is a question that was asked. I thought that, is there a video that shows the proctor walking through the test day instructions? Yes, we actually have another webinar scheduled for January 16th. January 16th will be the deadline. Not the deadline, will be the next webinar, and the webinar will be focused on test day administration webinar. So today's webinar was focused,
sorry, go ahead.
Today's webinar, we are focusing on pre-test day administration, and the next webinar, which is scheduled for January 16th, will focus on test day administration webinar.
So this is Jessica with USBE again. Yeah, that accommodation deadline initially, as we began the school year, was the 17th, and then ACT moved it to the 24th. But we've continued messaging the 17th because we're just helping out our little procrastinators by pushing that initial deadline. There's no harm in assuming it's the 17th. But if you are new to the ACT this year, when you are entering accommodations, you need to monitor that TAA system, because if you have an accommodation that was not approved, as Marissa stated earlier, there is a reconsideration window that is open through January 31st. So if that first time the accommodation is not approved, you need to continue to check the TAA system so that you have the option to resubmit information. Like perhaps maybe the accommodation you requested for the ACT was not on the student's plan that you uploaded. That would be an easy thing to fix and submit that second request during that reconsideration window. So make certain that you are monitoring the TAA to ensure that you are not missing anything that you need to follow up on.
Awesome. Thank you, Jessica. I'm going to give this question back to Jessica. There was a question that is there a testing ethics review course for teacher/proctor? Or is this an ACT? Are you asking? I'm sorry.
The testing ethics for the state is the same for all of our statewide assessments. So
okay,
your LEA should have already engaged in testing ethics. It's not going to be different.
Perfect. The chat is open. You're welcome. The chat is open if you have any questions or concerns, or just any questions or feedback. We would love to hear from you. Again, please feel free to contact us if you have any questions, or during testing or before testing. We are here to support you. Just another reminder, this webinar is recorded and it will be posted to view later on the Utah YouTube page. And please continue to review your state-hosted webpage. There are several resources to support you, as well as the schedule of events. And there is another webinar, January 16th. That webinar will focus on test day administration. If there are no more questions, we will prepare to close this webinar. I would like to say thank you for joining us and thank you for sharing your questions. Have a nice day.